I need to say up front, I'm not someone who jumps to, he's a murderer, because a guy gives off weird vibes. But when the police sat me down at work and asked, specifically, about his car boot, I felt my whole body go cold, because I instantly knew which smell they meant. I work a pretty normal office job in the UK. We do late shifts sometimes. Nothing extreme, but late enough that it's dark. The last bus is a gamble, and the car park is just rain and shadows, and the sound of your own footsteps. There's a guy on my team, called D. Mid-30s, quietish but not shy. The kind of person managers love because he's reliable and always helpful. He's got that vibe where he's always watching, but he's doing it with a smile, so you feel mean for noticing. The first time he offered me a lift home, I didn't think anything of it. It was chucking it down. I was stood under the little staff entrance awning, doing the bus app refresh routine like an idiot, and he comes out behind me, jangling his keys and says, "Want a lift? It's on my way." I said, "Nah, I'm all right. I'll get the bus." He didn't argue, but he didn't leave either. He just stood there, smiling, keys in hand, like he was waiting for me to change my mind. Then he says, while still smiling, "Come on, it's dark. I don't like you out here on your own." It should have sounded considerate, but it didn't. It sounded like he already decided what was happening to me that night, and I was being awkward by not going along with it. So I did that polite British thing where you refuse twice, laugh a bit, and hope the vibe resets. Honestly, I'm fine. He finally says, all right, and walks to his car. I'm still under the awning, thumbing over the bus app, when a car rolls slowly back past the entrance and stops, headlights right on me. I can see him in the driver's seat, just waiting. My stomach drops so hard, I actually stepped further back towards the door. After maybe 10 seconds, he drives off. I remember standing there thinking, what was that? Why do I feel like I just avoided something? Then I told myself I was being stupid and got on the bus. From then on, it became a thing. Not every shift, but enough that it stopped feeling like a one-off kindness and started feeling like a routine he was running. He'd appear right when I was packing up, coat already on, keys already in hand, like he'd been timing me. "Lift?" he asked. "No, I'm good," I replied. "You sure?" he asked. "Yep," I said. Then there was this pause where he'd just watch me, like he was deciding whether to push again. "All right, just thought I'd offer." He always said offer in this exact tone, like he was ticking a box. What really got to me was the details. He'd comment on things he shouldn't have known. Like one time, I said I might pop to the supermarket after work, and he says, "Tesco near the roundabout," even though I never said which one, and there are literally 3 within a 10-minute radius. Or he'd say stuff like, "You're leaving early today," when I hadn't mentioned it. And it's not like we're best friends. We don't chat. I don't tell him my plans. I started changing up what I did just to prove to myself I wasn't imagining it. Leaving 5 minutes earlier, leaving 5 minutes later, using the other exit, walking to a different stop, hanging back until the car park emptied. Sometimes it was normal, sometimes it wasn't. Once, I swapped shifts last minute and left an hour earlier. I hadn't seen him all evening. I didn't speak to him. And yet, when I walked out, his car was there, near the staff exit, engine running, like he'd been waiting. He leans over, smiles like we're in on a joke, and says, "Perfect timing." I got this horrible, prickly feeling on my scalp, like my body knew before my brain did. I remember forcing a laugh and saying something like, "Oh, I'm actually meeting someone," even though I wasn't, because I just wanted him to believe I wasn't going straight home. He watched me walk away. I could feel it in my back. I never told HR, because what do you even say? My coworker is too nice, and it's giving me the creeps. They'd rightfully tell me to grow up. Then my colleague, Holly, accepted a lift. We'd finished late. It was absolutely hammering it down. Her bus had been cancelled, and Dee does the exact same routine. I can drop you off. It's on my way. Holly is one of those people who just trusts. She says, "Oh my God, yes please." Dee looked genuinely pleased. Well, more like relieved. Like something had finally gone the way it was meant to. They drove off. The next day, Holly laughs about it like it's nothing. And I tried to tell myself, see, you're being paranoid. He's just awkward. Then, about a month later, 2 police officers came to the office, waiting in a glass meeting room while everyone pretended not to stare. My manager pings me, "Can you come to meeting room 3? I honestly thought I was in trouble. My heart was thumping like I'd stolen something. I walk in, and the officers are polite, normal. One of them asks if I know Dee. I say yes. They ask what he's like at work. I say, fine, quiet, helpful. They ask if I've ever been in his car. I say no. Then they ask, has he ever offered you a lift home? And I swear my stomach dropped through the floor. I said yes, a lot. They didn't look surprised. They just wrote. Then one of them says, very casually, like they're asking about a parking ticket, "Did you ever notice anything unusual about his car, particularly the boot?" And the thing is, I hadn't thought about his boot in weeks, not once. But the second they said it, my brain went straight to something that had happened a few weeks prior. I'd walked past his car one night, and his boot was open. He was loading something in. I didn't stop to look. It was just a glance, but I remember it because it looked too empty. Not tidy, empty, like it had been stripped. And I remember the smell. Sharp, chemical, like someone had cleaned something properly and recently. Something bleach adjacent. At the time, I'd even thought, oh, he's one of those people who cleans their car. Weird, but whatever. In that meeting room, with the police watching my face, that memory hit me so hard I actually felt my eyes sting. It was as if my body realized before my brain did that it might have been something worse. I told them about the empty boot and the cleaning smell and immediately felt stupid. They didn't react. They didn't reassure me. They just wrote it down and asked follow-ups. Did I remember if there was a carpet lining? Did I remember if he had plastic sheeting? Did he ever carry big bags or boxes? Did he ever offer lifts to anyone else? And that's when it stopped being office weirdness and became real fear. Because it wasn't about whether he was creepy anymore. It was about the fact the police were building a timeline, and I was a small piece of it. After that, Dee never came back in. His desk sat there for 2 days, then his stuff was boxed up. The company never said anything about it. Holly called in sick for a week. When she came back, she looked different. Like someone who'd been sleeping with the lights on. Someone made a stupid joke in the kitchen about accepting lifts from random blokes. And Holly snapped so hard the entire room went silent. Later, when it was just us by the kettle, she quietly said, "He didn't drop me where I asked." "What do you mean?" I asked. She shook her head, eyes fixed on her mug, and said, "I don't think I'm ready to talk about it, but he didn't. I think I escaped something terrible." And I didn't push it, because the look on her face was fear like I'd never seen on her before. That night, I got home and locked my door, and then checked it again. and then stood there listening for a car outside, like I'd become a different person. Because here's the bit I can't get over. Holly said something terrible could have happened. She'd been interviewed by the police, and she was terrified. He didn't need to offer me lifts. He wanted to. And I keep thinking about those headlights on me under the awning. Him waiting like I just said the wrong line. Update. A few months later, Holly finally told me what happened in the car and why the police were really asking about his boot. I wasn't going to post again because I genuinely didn't want to turn this into some true crime content thing. I wrote the first post because I felt like I was losing my mind. But since then, things have moved on in a way that makes my stomach flip even typing it. D was arrested, and not for anything minor. I'm being careful with wording because I'm not trying to get myself in trouble or mess with an investigation, but the short version is, they were trying to connect him to multiple kidnappings or attempted kidnappings of young women and possibly more. And the reason I'm updating is because Holly eventually sat down with me outside of work and told me what happened the night that she accepted the lift. What Holly said as she said it. Holly's always been a benefit of the doubt person. Even after the police came to the office the first time, she was still trying to rationalize it like, maybe it's a mistake, maybe it's someone else. But about 2 months after that first police visit, she rang me late and asked if I could come around because she couldn't keep it in her head anymore. She looked different, like she'd aged. She had been permanently tense for weeks. She started with, I couldn't get this out before. I didn't want to relive it. Then she told me the part she'd only hinted at before. He didn't drop her where she asked. He just kept driving. She said at first it was normal. Rain, traffic, boring chat. Then, as they got closer to her area, she gave him directions like, turn here, this is fine, I'll walk the rest. And he did this casual laugh and said something like, yeah, I know a quicker way. Holly said she remembers looking at the sat-nav and noticing it wasn't set to anything, just the home screen. She said she asked again, still polite, you can just drop me here, honestly. And he replied in that too cheerful voice, don't be silly, I'll take you right to the door. It's not safe. Which, writing this, sounds almost normal. But Holly said the way he said it made her feel like she'd stopped being a person and started being a thing he was transporting. Then he took a turn that made no sense, and she said the moment they turned off the main road, she felt her stomach drop because it wasn't a shortcut, it was the wrong direction. She tried to laugh it off at first. That's not the way. He didn't answer properly, just kept talking. Like if he kept the conversation moving, she wouldn't have space to react. And then she noticed something that made her go properly cold. The doors were locked. She tried the handle, not dramatically, just instinctively, and it didn't open. And when she said, can you unlock it? I'm just gonna get out here. He said, why would you do that? It's pouring. Like she was the weird one. She said at that point, she stopped caring about being polite. She told him firmly to stop the car. He did that sigh laugh thing and said, all right, but didn't stop straight away. Then he asked her questions. Did she live alone? Was anyone expecting her? Did she have a partner waiting up? What number flat she was? Was her phone charged? Holly said she lied immediately, said her boyfriend was waiting up, said she texted him she was on her way and was getting a lift from him. And she said D just went quiet for a few seconds, like he was recalculating. The bit that made my skin crawl was this. She said, When he finally slowed down near a darker, quieter stretch, he said, almost lightly, "Come on then, just hop out here. Save me going all the way around." Like he hadn't spent the last 10 minutes refusing to let her out. Like it was suddenly his idea. Holly said she didn't get out. She said she started talking, not calmly, like she planned it, but talking fast, saying she was going to call someone, saying she was expected, saying she was sending her location. And she said he snapped quickly, not shouting, but that friendly mask slipped for a second, and he said, "Don't make this into a thing." That was the moment she said she knew, properly, that whatever this was, it wasn't a misunderstanding. She managed to get her phone out and ring someone. She didn't tell me who, just someone who answered straight away. And she said she put the call on speaker and started saying loudly, "Yeah, I'm with D from work. He's driving me home. We're nearly there. Can you stay on the line?" She said within about a minute, he turned back towards the main road, and he was overly bright again. "See? Told you I know a quicker way," he said. And then he dropped her off, not at her door, but close enough that she could run inside. She said he sat there watching until she went through the entrance. And then, the next day at work, he acted like it was completely normal. No apology. In fact, he offered a cheerful morning, like the night before hadn't happened. She said that's why she didn't tell anyone, because once the normal version was back on the table, her brain wanted to grab it and pretend the other version wasn't real. After Dee disappeared from work, there were rumors for weeks. HR were doing that dead-eyed, "we can't comment" thing. Management suddenly got very serious about leaving in pairs and security escorts, which felt like confirmation without them saying anything. Then the police came back, not to the office, but they started contacting people one by one. This time they asked stuff like, had he ever used different names? Did he ever talk about working elsewhere? Had anyone noticed him hanging around after shifts? Had anyone accepted lifts? They didn't say the words kidnapping to us in the room, but the questions were in that direction. What finally made it real was Holly saying the officer asked her something like, "Has he ever tried to get you to go somewhere else with him? And did he ever stop the car and ask you to get out somewhere isolated?" Holly told me she felt sick because it made it sound like a pattern. Later, though, a mix of workplace grapevine plus what Holly was told directly, we heard they were looking at several incidents involving young women going missing or being taken, or an attempted taking in areas not a million miles from where we work. Different dates, similar circumstances, late, dark, travel disruption, someone offering help. And yes, murders were implied, like potentially linked to more serious offenses. I don't have any clean answers. What I do have is this ongoing low-level nausea every time I think about it. Holly's looking for a new job. She doesn't want to walk into that building again and be reminded of it. I don't blame her. And I don't accept lifts from anyone, not out of politeness, not out of awkwardness, not because I don't want to offend someone. I'd rather stand in the rain. So, a guy I worked with died at work. I know that sentence makes it sound like some big dramatic event, but the weird part is how undramatic it was, at least from where most of us were standing. One minute it's a normal shift, next minute there's a ripple down the corridor, people going quiet, Someone saying, "Can you move, please?" Managers suddenly appearing, telling you to go back to your desk and carry on for now. And the police are spotted going into the staff room where the lockers are. Later, we get the email. "We're sorry to inform you. Medical episode and support available, etc." Everyone's a bit shell-shocked, obviously. You do that workplace thing where you're sad, but you also gotta pretend you can still answer emails like a normal person. The kitchen was eerie. People kept making tea they weren't drinking. A lot of staring into mugs. Anyway, here's where it goes from tragic to why do I feel sick. Within hours, and I mean hours, his area was basically wiped. His chair was pushed in like he'd never sat there. His monitor was gone. His mug disappeared. His name got taken off the rota insanely fast. It wasn't even tidy it up later. It was like someone had a checklist. Remove evidence of his existence. Which sounds harsh, but that's genuinely how it felt. I tried to tell myself it was just management being efficient and not knowing how to handle death like actual humans. Then the next day, I'm by the lockers, and one of the security guys, older, usually chatty, leans in and says very quietly, "Just so you know, they've taken stuff from Mark's locker." "For his family?" I asked, and he pauses, a proper pause. Then he says, "Yeah, some personal stuff." But he didn't say it like, "Oh, bless him." He said it like, "Don't ask me questions I can't answer." So of course, I immediately want to ask questions. Like, why is security involved? Why not just HR packing it up? Why is it happening so fast? Why is he whispering? I'm not proud of this, but I said, "Was it like, something bad?" He looked at me for a second and then just said, "I didn't say anything, okay?" Then he walked off. I stood there with my bag half open, feeling like an idiot, and also feeling that cold fizz in your stomach when your brain starts doing the connect the dots thing without you even asking it to. Because Mark wasn't some big personality. He wasn't the office joker. He wasn't loud. He was just present, always there, always slightly separate. If you said hi, he'd say hi. If you didn't, he'd still be there. That was basically it. A couple days later, management do this stiff little talk about respecting privacy and not speculating, which is always the fastest way to make people speculate. Then a week goes by, and I start thinking maybe it's all in my head. Maybe the security guy was just being dramatic. Maybe there was something in the locker that would upset the family. Maybe it's nothing. And then I get a call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer because I get spam calls constantly. But I was expecting a delivery, so I picked up. It's a police officer. Calm, professional, slightly too gentle. The way people are when they're trying not to panic you. He says my full name, asks if I work for the company, asks if I knew Mark. My mouth went instantly dry, like I was back at high school and I'd been called into the head's office. I said yes, sort of. I worked with him. He asked if I'd ever socialized with Mark outside of work. I said no. He asked if Mark had ever mentioned me outside of work, like talked about me, asked about me, said anything weird. And I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so out of left field. I was like, why would he? The officer didn't laugh back, he just waited. Then he said something along the lines of, "We've recovered items from his locker that suggests he had an unusual interest in certain colleagues." Certain colleagues, plural. I asked what that meant. He didn't give me details, but he asked if Mark had ever offered to walk me to my car, asked me what time I finished, asked where I lived, commented on my routine, and if he just happened to be around at odd times. And as he's saying it, my brain is doing this horrible slideshow of tiny moments I'd filed away as nothing. Mark appearing near the women's bathrooms, Mark asking, "You got home okay?" after a late finish, even though we weren't mates. Frequently bumping into him at my local corner shop, even though he didn't live nearby. At the time, it was easy to brush off. Some people are just odd. But now the police are asking me questions like I'm part of something. I told the officer the truth. Mark never did anything overt. Nothing I could have taken to HR without feeling silly. Just a load of small things that made me mildly uncomfortable, and then I'd forget about them because you're busy and you don't want to be paranoid. The officer thanked me, told me not to discuss the call, said someone might follow up. Then he said one more thing that made my stomach turn. "Just to reassure you, we don't believe you're at immediate risk, but if you notice anyone hanging around your home or workplace, call us." I unplugged the phone and just sat there staring at my wall like my brain had been unplugged. Because photos and notes, that's what the officer implied. And the security guy's tone suddenly made sense. And the quick cleanup also made sense. That night, I kept thinking about how many times I'd been alone in that building, walking to my locker, walking to my car. I also started wondering who else got that phone call. And I can't stop thinking about how Mark died. Medical episode. That's all we were told. No details, nothing. But I don't know how to explain the way management moved like they were trying to get ahead of something. Anyway, that's it. I don't have a neat ending. I don't even fully know what they found, and I'm not sure I want to. I just know I feel different at work now. Throwaway, because I still work here, and I honestly don't know what to do with this without sounding insane. So I started a new job earlier this year. Normal office environment, the kind of place where people make the same 5 jokes every day, and it somehow counts as culture. There's a woman on my team. We'll call her Leah. She's mid-30s. She's been at the company longer than I. Very social, very work mom/organizer type. She's the sort of person who knows everyone's birthday and somehow knows what everyone's having for lunch. A few weeks in, she starts doing the whole work husband thing. At first, it's genuinely just banter. Like she'll say, "Ugh, where's my work husband?" if she needs help with a spreadsheet. Or she'll bring over a coffee and say, "I got this for my work husband." People laugh. I laugh awkwardly. I assume it was one of those office phrases everyone uses, and I was just new. I did try to shut it down lightly, like, "Please don't. I've actually got a partner," or, "That's a bit weird, lol." She'd do the big dramatic, "Oh my god, it's a joke" thing, and everyone would laugh, and I'd feel like I'd been the one making it awkward. So I let it slide. That was my first mistake. Then it started creeping into everything. She'd say it in meetings, in front of managers, on group chats. If I didn't reply quickly to something she needed, she'd do the fake sad, "My work husband is ignoring me" thing. If I ate lunch with someone else, she'd say, "Wow, okay, cheating on your work wife," like it was all harmless. Except it didn't feel harmless anymore. It felt like she was trying to create this little story about us that everyone was supposed to accept. I started being more direct. "Seriously, stop calling me that." I kept it calm but firm. She stopped. For about a week. Then she switched tactics. She started acting concerned, like She'd message me privately. "You seem stressed lately. Are you okay?" Or, "You've been really quiet. Is everything okay at home?" If I said, "I'm fine," she'd push, "Are you sure? You can tell me. I'm worried about you." It was weird because we weren't close. We didn't hang out outside of work. We didn't even talk that much one-on-one beside normal work stuff. But suddenly, she was talking like she was my confidant. And a couple of small things happened that made me go from annoyed to what the actual hell. She asked me if my partner and I lived together. I dodged the question. She asked me if my partner gets jealous. I laughed it off. She made a comment about my partner's name in a way that made my stomach drop, because I'm pretty sure I'd never said their name at work. I went home that night and checked my socials like a paranoid person. My partner's profile isn't even fully public, but it's not exactly hidden either. If you know my surname and you look for 2 minutes, you can find them. I told my partner about Leah in a half-jokey way, like, "There's this woman at work with no boundaries." My partner rolled their eyes, said, "Office weirdos exist," and that was that. Then, last week, my partner gets an email, an actual email, from Leah. My partner showed me their phone and said, "Do you know who this is?" And honestly, my brain didn't even process it at first. Because why would a coworker email your partner? Like, in what world? The subject line was something like, "Just checking in, concerned." And the email itself was written in this fake, sweet, worried tone that made my skin crawl. Not aggressive, not obviously unhinged. Almost worse than that. Because if you showed it to someone out of context, they might even think she was being kind. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, "She works with me. She's just a bit worried. I've been flirting a lot at work, and she didn't know if my partner was aware. I seem unhappy lately, and she's concerned about what's going on at home. She's worried for my safety." She ended it with, "I'm here if you need to talk. Woman to woman, man to man, whatever." The wording was weird. My partner was like, "What is this?" I genuinely felt like I was going to be sick, because none of it was true. I'm not flirting at work. I'm not confiding in Leah. I'm not unhappy at home. And the safety line felt like she was trying to plant something specific in my partner's head. Like, is my partner hurting me? I told my partner everything. The work husband comments, the boundary pushing, the weird questions. My partner believed me, thank God, but they were shaken. Mostly because it's such a violating thing. Someone you don't even like has reached into your personal life and started stirring it. I confronted Leah at work the next day. I didn't do it in front of people. I messaged her and asked if we could talk in a meeting room. "Why did you email my partner?" I asked. She didn't deny it. She didn't even look embarrassed. She looked annoyed, like I'd inconvenienced her. She says, "I was worried about you." "You don't know my partner. You don't get to contact them," I said. And she did this little shrug and said, "If you don't want people to know things about you, don't bring them to work." Which I hadn't. That's the point. She'd gone looking. Then she smiled, actually smiled, and said, "I'm sorry I upset you, but if roles were reversed, you'd want someone to say something." I walked out because I honestly didn't trust myself not to start shouting. I've spoken to my manager and HR now. I showed them the email. They did the whole serious face / "thank you for raising this" routine. They said they'll investigate. But here's what's messing with my head. Leah hasn't acted embarrassed since. She hasn't avoided me. She's been extra friendly in group settings, like she's trying to make me look like the weird one. Like if I react badly, I'll be the dramatic one. And now, I'm sat here thinking, if she's willing to email my partner something like that, what else is she willing to say, and to who? I don't even know what I'm asking for. I just feel gross. Like someone's tried to wedge themselves into my relationship using concern as a weapon. What should I do? I work remote most of the week. It's a pretty normal corporate setup. Teams calls, screen shares. Everyone pretending their webcam doesn't make them look like they're in a cave. There's a guy on my team, Ryan. Mid-30s, quiet, competent. Not really someone I talk to outside of work stuff. He's not a joker, not overly friendly, just there. You know the type. Anyway, last week we had a team call with about 8 of us. Fairly routine. Project updates, someone's mic echoing, manager doing the quick one that's never quick. Ryan was presenting a deck, nothing unusual. He says, "Let me just share my screen," and does the share. For a second, it's his desktop. Then he opens the file, and then there's this little hiccup where the window minimizes, and you see his file explorer. It was literally like a second, maybe less. Blink and you miss it. But I didn't miss it. Because right there, in the middle of the screen, was a folder named with my full name. Not like project with my name or handover with my name. Just my name. First and last. My stomach sank. And I mean like that instant cold wave you get when you see something you weren't meant to see. At the same time, I had the stupidest thought. Maybe it's HR paperwork. Maybe he's saving something for me. Then Ryan made this weird sound, like a sharp inhale, and the screen share cut out completely. The whole call ended. Everyone was kicked off. 2 seconds later, the meeting chat lights up with messages like, "Did we get booted? Lol, Teams. Ryan." Our manager starts a new call. Everyone joins again. There's the usual, Teams is a mess chatter. Ryan joins late, camera off, mic off for ages. Then he comes on and says, breezy as anything. "Sorry, my internet just died. Where were we?" No mention of the screen share, no. Oops, I shared the wrong thing. Nothing. The meeting carries on. I'm sat there, pretending to take notes while my brain is replaying the file explorer like it's CCTV footage. I didn't tell anyone in the call. I didn't want to be that person making it weird. Also, it happened so fast, I thought I had imagined it. But I didn't imagine it. I know what I saw. After the meeting, Ryan messages me privately. He said, "Hey, can you send me the latest figures when you get a sec? Completely normal, like nothing happened." I stared at the message for ages. It felt like he was testing whether I was going to react. Like if I replied normally, he'd know I hadn't noticed. So I replied normally. I sent him the figures. He said, "Thanks," with a thumbs up. End of conversation. That should have been the end of it. Except now, I'm noticing stuff that I might have brushed off before. He's been the first person to view my status updates, like the second I go away or back. He keeps referencing things I've done that I don't remember mentioning to him. Like, how was the dentist? I'd only put it in my calendar and never told him. He asks questions that aren't really questions, more like checks. Things like, you working from home tomorrow? You going into the office Friday? Still living in? And proceeded to say the name of the area I lived in, which I never told him. Again, all of these things individually could be normal. People gossip. People see calendars. People ask stuff. But when you add the folder with my name on it, it stops feeling normal. I've spent the last week trying to convince myself there's an innocent explanation. Like maybe he had a folder for each person on the team with their docs in it. Maybe it's onboarding files. Maybe he's the organized type. But if that was the case, why panic? Why kill the call? Why not just laugh and go, oops, wrong window? And that's the bit I can't shake. It was oh no. I don't want to go to HR with. I saw a folder with my name on it for a second. That sounds ridiculous. But I also don't like how it's made me feel. It's like I've been quietly filed away somewhere on someone else's computer. So yeah, has anyone else had something like this happen to them? Is there a normal work reason someone would have a folder with your full name on it? Or am I right to feel this way? I don't even know where to start, because it sounds like something that would only happen in a bad TV show. But it's been going on for weeks, and it's now reached the point where random people in the office are looking at me like I'm some deadbeat. I started this job earlier this year. Normal office, normal team. I keep my head down, do my work, and go home. I'm in a relationship, and I don't flirt at work. Like, I barely even chat at work beyond polite small talk. There's a woman on another team, Sophie. She's friendly in that slightly intense way. Always talking, always oversharing. Always in your space a bit, but nothing I'd call dangerous. Just a lot. We're not friends. We never hung out outside of work. I don't have her on social media. We message occasionally on Teams about work stuff. That's it. Anyway, about a month ago, I'm in the kitchen making tea, and one of the guys from finance, who I barely know, says, kind of awkwardly, "So, are you, stepping up then?" I literally thought he was talking about a project. I was like, stepping up? He looks at the floor and says, "With Sophie." I just stared at him. I genuinely didn't understand. Then he says, quieter, "The baby." I actually laughed, like involuntarily. Not because it was funny, because it was so absurd, my brain rejected it. I said, "What baby?" He went red and immediately did the whole, "Oh, sorry, forget I said anything," and walked off. I stood there with the kettle boiling behind me, feeling like someone had tipped ice water down my back. I messaged my friend at work asking, "Has Sophie been saying weird stuff?" And she replied almost instantly, "Wait, you don't know?" Apparently, Sophie had been telling people that she was pregnant, and not in a vague, "I'm pregnant" way, in a, "it's his" way. Not loudly, not announced. More like whisper network style. The kind of rumor that spreads because people feel like they're being told a secret. And the way she framed it, from what I was told, was always slightly different depending on who she was talking to. It ranged from, "It's complicated, I don't want drama, he knows, he's just scared," and "I'm not asking him for anything," which makes you sound guilty even if you've done nothing, because it suggests you're refusing to do the right thing. I went straight into panic mode, the kind where you can't breathe properly and you feel like everyone is suddenly looking at you. I asked my friend who else had heard it, and she said, "Honestly, loads. It's been going round for weeks." Weeks, she said. And no one told me, because they assumed I knew, or they didn't want to get involved, or they thought it was between you two. The worst part is, I could already tell some people had been acting off around me, like little looks, little silences when I walked in, people being overly nice like they were trying to gauge if I was a bad person. Now it made sense. I confronted Sophie the same day because I couldn't sit with it. I didn't shout. I didn't do it in public. I messaged her on Teams, asking, "Can we talk privately?" She replied immediately, "Of course." Heart emoji, she said. That heart made me feel physically sick. We went to a secluded place. I said as calmly as I could, "Why are people saying you're pregnant with my child?" Her face changed so fast, it was almost impressive, like a switch. She did this confused frown and said, "What? Who said that?" "Multiple people, and it's very clearly coming from you." She immediately started crying, like proper tears, hands shaking, the whole performance. And then she says, "I can't believe you do this to me." "Do what, Sophie? I haven't done anything. I'm asking you why you're telling people this," I said to her. She kept crying and said, "You're making me sound crazy." Then she said the thing that honestly made my brain short-circuit. "Stop gaslighting me." "That's not what gaslighting means," I said. "See? You're doing it right now. You always do this," she snapped back. "Always. Like we had history." Then she said, and I remember this so clearly, "I never said it was yours. People twist things. I said it was complicated." "Complicated how? We haven't even..." I started, but I stopped myself because I didn't want to get dragged into arguing about my sex life in a meeting room at work. She wiped her face, still crying, and said, "So you're calling me a liar?" "Yes, because this is a lie," I responded. She looked at me with this really flat expression for half a second, like the tears were an accessory she could remove. And then she started crying harder. "I trusted you," she said. "Trusted me? With what? We're not together. We're not anything," I said to her. "You don't get to decide what we were," she barked back. I swear to God, my entire body went cold. I ended the conversation and went straight to my manager, then HR. I told them exactly what was happening, and I asked them to document it, because I could already feel the ground shifting under me. HR did the whole serious act, asked if I had proof. I said I didn't, because she's doing it verbally and in private, which is obviously deliberate. They said they'd speak to her. The next day, Sophie wasn't crying. She was cheerful. Sophie was in the office laughing. She said, "Morning," to me in the sweetest voice, like we just had a normal chat. Then I started getting messages from people like, "Must be a stressful time," and "She's been through a lot." She'd flipped it. Suddenly it wasn't, "He got me pregnant." It was, "He's being horrible to me." And now I'm stuck in a situation where if I defend myself, I look guilty. If I stay quiet, the rumor becomes true by default. I don't even know what to do next beyond keeping everything in writing and never being alone with her again. Also, and this is the part that's making me feel genuinely unsafe, if someone is willing to tell a lie this big about you at work, what else are they willing to say?